So, are the Lib Dems now in favour of revoking Article 50 and cancelling Brexit altogether?
Well, so long as this Parliament persists, Sophie, of course we're going to carry on campaigning for a people's vote with Remain on the ballot, which we will be, of course, backing. But that's an issue for this Parliament. If we enter a general election, which I think is probably quite likely in November, we will continue providing that clear, distinctive voice as the biggest and strongest Remain party in this country by committing, if we have a Liberal Democrat majority government, to revoking Article 50. We believe that a victory in an election like that would give us a clear democratic mandate to do that, and it would thankfully bring an end to the chaos that we have seen swiftly, so we can actually focus on the big issues this country is facing. How do we properly fund our NHS? How do we build a fairer, more equal society and transform our dysfunctional economy?
You see, you say that you'd have a mandate for it, but at the same time, I can't help but wonder if it is really credible that a party with Democrats in the actual title of the party would be willing to overturn the biggest democratic vote we've actually seen in British history without even putting the question specifically back to the people.
Well, look, we actually want to see Parliament functioning, so that's why you have seen this party arguing against the shutdown and prorogation of Parliament. That's what it is to be democratic. And we want to see things determined at the ballot box through votes, and that's what you would do in a general election. I know it suits people on the other side of the argument, particularly the extreme Brexiters, who I think actually represent a minority in our country, to somehow say that we had one vote in 2016 and somehow democracy stopped at that point, and any further votes or mandates that we have after that point don't count. Well, that's just not the way British democracy works. I could run with your argument if it was a case of us saying, no, in no way, shape or form should we reference this back to the people, but generally the people in this country have their say on the big issues through general elections or referendums.
We're talking about a general election because, of course, your party also voted against having an early election when Boris Johnson put that to Parliament. When do you actually want to see one happen?
Once we have secured the extension to Article 50, which is now provided through the Ben Act of Parliament, and once that comes into effect and we can be absolutely sure that there is no risk that in holding a general election this country falls off a cliff, then fine, let's go ahead and have that general election and see if we can resolve some of the mess we've seen created by the big two parties in British politics. Look, I think something fundamentally is going on right here, Sophie. I was campaigning in the cities of London and Westminster with our team there. I'm our candidate there in the general election. And I was going to areas which it's unheard of to think would vote anything other than Conservative, where we see a collapse in the Conservative vote. And that's because we are seeing right now a reconfiguration of British politics.
It's interesting that you are going to be fighting the seat of cities of London and Westminster, currently held, of course, by the Conservatives. When I last interviewed you on the show, we did it in Streatham, where you were formerly an MP. And you said, this is the community I'm from and I grew up in. This is my community. My family is here. So why would I leave it? Why would you leave it?
Well, no one has an indefinite right to represent a constituency in perpetuity. And I'm, of course, sad to be leaving Streatham. To be clear, this was my decision. We actually had a fantastic candidate in Helen Thompson in Streatham, who'd already led a very strong European election campaign earlier this year in the constituency, which saw the Liberal Democrats win comfortably, taking 7 of the 8 wards. And I didn't think it was right to elbow her out of the situation. Very strong candidate. And I'll also be frank with you, Sophie, I wasn't particularly relishing the prospect of coming up against what I knew in the new Labour Party, not the old Labour Party that selected me 10 years ago, but the new Labour Party, that I'd be facing a pretty vile, awful and appalling campaign. And I feel I owe a duty of care to my staff and my family. I didn't really want to put them through that. But also we see, of course, the cities of London and Westminster isn't just a symbol nationally. It is a global symbol of open, international, liberal values. And it is currently represented by a Member of Parliament who failed to vote to block No Deal and who represents a party which has basically become a right-wing populist nationalist party. I mean, what you saw with the ejection of 21 Conservative MPs, including Sam Gyimah, who we are incredibly happy to now have in the Liberal Democrats, wasn't just an ejection of, heavyweight, substantial individuals who command respect across the House of Commons. You actually saw the ejection of an entire tradition, the one nation Disraeli tradition, from the Conservative Party. That was a message saying to them, there's no longer a home for you. A party like that cannot possibly adequately represent an international, global community like that we find in the cities of London and Westminster.
You mentioned Sam Gyimah there. He, of course, has now become the 18th Lib Dem MP. You've seen defections from the Labour Party, people such as yourselves, and also from the Conservative Party. Is there a risk that the only thing that unites you is your desire to try and stop Brexit?
No, look, it's much more than that. And I think people, misunderstanding what's going on here. Yes, Remain Leave is indicative of whether you want the UK to continue to be a member of the European Union, but it's about much more than that. It's indicative of holding a set of liberal, international, open values, where you believe in multilateral cooperation, countries working together to improve the lots of their people. You believe in the rule of law. You believe in upholding human rights. That is the new divide now, between, frankly, socially liberal, internationalists, and, on the other hand, authoritarian social conservatives, which you see increasingly the Tory party representing in this country. So I actually think British politics now is less class-based than it once was, and it's actually less left-right. It's actually more about whether you're liberal or authoritarian. And the authoritarian part of the politics here is represented by the Conservative Party, and the clue is in the name of the Liberal Democrats. We are the biggest and strongest Remain party, but it's really about championing and defending liberal values.